County.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Community Close-Up. I'm your host, Sharen Skelly, and today's guests are the former mayor of Owen Sound, Mayor Ruth Lovell-Stanners, Carol Merton, current councillor in Owen Sound, and Marion Koepke, also a current councillor in Owen Sound. Welcome, ladies. Thank you. Mayor, or former mayor, is just joining us by audio, and we have a photo of her up. So that's some technical problems, but that's how we have her with us today. And during the month of March, we acknowledge International Women's Day. So today we're going to be talking, or actually on the show all month, we're going to be acknowledging women's issues. And during this show, we're going to be talking about women in politics. So that's the theme of today's show. And actually, the theme of International Women's Day is Choose to Challenge. So you might want to think about what you choose to challenge this year, ladies, and bring that to the table when you go and do your work at City Council. But we're going to start by asking you one by one how you decided to come to the political table, and what has been your most the most exciting thing, your crowning achievement so far in politics. So we'll start with you, Mayor Lovell. What brought you to politics, and what was your most proudest achievement?
Well, I'm not in politics at the moment, so we'll make that clear so we don't confuse people out there thinking that I've recycled myself. But what brought me into it, that's an interesting question. There is a lot of politics in my genetics. Oh. I have a grandfather who was a member of Parliament for 30-some years. My great-grandfather was the mayor of Toronto. I have cousins who've been mayors. It seems like there's this some kind of heredity going on here. But actually, I think part of that is the reality. It becomes part of your life when you're a child growing up in a family where there are politics. And so as a young person, I got involved. Before I could vote, I was working on different political campaigns. And then as time went by, I think getting involved with policing was probably what got me interested in politics, because I was involved on a provincial basis. And I saw what one person could do and what an organization could do. And I thought, this is really, this bears considering. And from there, it was a natural step into local politics.
And how long were you in politics before you retired from Owen Sound? Because you were in federal politics, weren't you?
No.
Or was it provincial?
I ran for the provincial. The Liberals 1 year.
Right.
And I ran against Bill Murdoch, which was like being sacrificial lamb, because I absolutely loved, and I understand that is a great guy. And so that was my one foray into
right.
But I was 9 years as a councillor and then 7 years as a mayor. 16 years.
16 years. That's a long run.
It was a long run. Yeah.
So what was your crowning achievement? What were you most proud of while you were mayor?
That is really, really a difficult question, Sharon. There are so many components in the job. When I look back on it and I think, what was it that what meant the most to me. It wouldn't be the bridges, and it wouldn't be the buildings. I think that what I liked, and this it's really, I like the contact with people, and I can't say it was just one particular event, but I loved working with people. I loved solving problems. I loved it when people would come in with a problem and I could get my teeth into it and help them. So that really is the
that's
best
politics.
part of the job for me. Yes,
That's right. Solving problems. Well, thank you very much for that. And we'll go on to Carol now. So Carol, what brought you into politics? That's you're generally in healthcare because you're an occupational or physiotherapist.
Physiotherapist. Yep. Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be on the program today. I don't talk about my journey very often, so this is a wonderful adventure for me to be able to share. Unlike Ruth, in our home growing up, politics was not discussed. In fact, it was avoided because of the fact there were two things. You know, you don't touch on politics, you don't touch on religion. I ended up marrying a minister and I'm a counselor, so go figure. Just not making sense. So, you know, it just wasn't something I was accustomed to. But my journey began at an intersection, at a crosswalk. And where I lived, I began concerned about the safety of the children in the crosswalk. I had communicated that concern, and I watched the process go through the stages of assessment at City Hall. It concerned me, and that prompted me to look more closely at how decisions are made, who makes the decisions, who's around the table. And that tweaked my interest to start to attend council meetings, to actually go to campaign school to learn more about this, to go online and research. Bottom line, the decision for me came because I cared. And it was important to me to be able to be in a place where I could make a difference and help to make decisions for our community. So in a nutshell, that's my journey.
Wow. It makes sense. It makes logical sense. Like that's how you got there. Now, what you've been there. This is your first term.
It is.
So, what's been your proudest achievement so far?
I think it's the learning along the way that has been what I would say. It's helped me understand I need to leave a legacy for those who follow. And as a result of what I'm still learning and learn all the time at the seat at council is I've become a co-founder of basically an organization called Elector. And our goal is to try and bring more women to the political table, especially at the municipal level. And I think to be able to leave a legacy that I can pass on what I'm learning and also help to network and mentor other women who want to come along helps me feel enthusiastic about politics and what can be offered in our area.
That's great. And we're going to talk about that. Hopefully we'll have enough time because it does sort of morph into one of the issues that we were going to talk about, which is COVID. And believe it or not, it does affect the number of women that are going into politics. Believe it or not, COVID has affected everything. So Marion, you're also in your first term.
No, my second term.
Second. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. That's right. It is your second term. Now you worked for the city, right, before you came into politics.
That's right.
Is that what got you interested in politics, or what piqued your interest in politics?
Well, I certainly didn't grow up with politics in my household, but in 1983, I started working for the city. 1988, I became the deputy clerk, and then in 2005, I was appointed as the clerk, and I was the first woman to be appointed to this position for the city of Owen Sound, so I'm rather proud of that. I retired.
That is quite a crowning achievement.
Thank you. I retired in 2010, And when I retired, they asked if I would stay on to conduct the municipal election for that year, and I did. And then 2014 came along. They again asked me if I would conduct the election, but I had to decline because I was convinced by a few people to run for council. So that began my political career on the other side of the table. I certainly wasn't unfamiliar with the council chambers and the workings of council and the issues they had to deal with. But it's different on the other side of the table, believe me, because you get to speak. The other way, you just take notes. So people behind me that were convincing of me to take on this position was particularly my husband. And without that support, I don't think you can carry on and do the things that you need to do in that position. But also former Councillor Ann Kelly. She was a great supporter of work that I had done with her in the past in volunteering. And I just have always been involved in my community with lots of various volunteer organizations, and particularly Women's Institute. I've been a member of the North Grey Women's Institute for over 45 years, and that's basically where I learned my training in politics and meeting procedures. So I have to credit them for some of that, but then went on, of course, to teach a lot of those courses myself. But it basically was my career and people behind me after I retired that got me into politics.
So well, as far as being in politics, what has been the thing that you're most proud of being a councillor?
Well, I'm certainly proud of being able to help people. If they call me and ask me a question and I can't answer it, I think I have a better path knowing the inside workings of City Hall for them to be able to find the right answer and the answer they're looking for, or try and achieve what they're trying to achieve. So I hope I can help people in that regard. But it's not one particular thing. It's just being able to help people and being involved in my community.
That seems to be a theme, being able to help. That seems to be what you're most proud of. Well, seeing as this is the theme for this show is women in politics, I thought I'd ask a couple of questions about the difference in tone, the difference in approaches that women have in politics compared to men. Now, this isn't to be discriminatory or you know that, but I just wanted to know if there is a difference. And one issue I have is because you deal with a lot of controversy at the local level, because you do deal with a lot of issues that really affect people at their core, as far as things that are really going to affect people in their day-to-day living. Federal politics, not so much, but municipal politics, it's really things that affect people day-to-day, their taxes, their water, things like that are going, the roads, that sort of thing. So it can be a little bit messy sometimes. It can be messy politics. And so sometimes there can be backlash. And you might get letters, emails, phone calls. And the criticisms that you get, do you think that they're any different than the criticisms that your male counterparts would get? Would they be on a more personal level, I might say, than they would be for your male counterparts? We might recall back in the spring, I think it was the MP for the Minister of Environment got some nasty writing on her constituency office because of some of the things that she was. It had nothing to do with her personally, but would a male counterpart have had something like that written on the front of his office? So that was one of the things that I'm trying to get at. So just. I guess we'll start with the former Mayor Ruth Lovell-Stanners. Has she ever had to deal with any of those personal affronts when it had nothing to do with her position or her work as a mayor?
Well, Sharen, that's an interesting question. I think the one thing that perhaps my answer is important, is that I was the first woman to be elected mayor in Owen Sound. It only took 150 years, but it did happen. And it was new territory for the people in Owen Sound, and it was new territory for me. And I think a bit about when I was involved in policing on the provincial level. One of the things that was really on the table at that time was hiring more women police officers, and how it was important that it reflected society as a whole when you looked at the components of a police department. But one thing I heard then is that women police officers, simply because they were women, got a certain amount of respect in any situation. So if they were sent into a domestic dispute, for example, because they were a woman, there was just something intuitive that would happen, and there was a respect. And I think I got that just by default, being the first woman mayor. And I don't recall personal attacks. I really don't, and I'm happy to say that. There would be times that there would be lively discussion, and some, obviously they weren't always pleasant, but really I don't ever feel that there has been personal attacks on myself. And I'm very grateful for that. That tends to happen at a level up higher, I think, because this is too intimate a setting here when you're in a city. If you're a provincial member and you've got a huge area, I think people feel more comfortable and more protected taking shots, so to speak, at their politicians. But no, I'll be interested to hear what the others think. But I can't say that I have felt that.
Well, that's good to hear. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah.
About you, Carol, have you ever had any sort of personal affronts to you, written or email or phone calls?
I think that any politician going into office anticipates that there are going to be differences of opinion. What's different is the perception. Does it feel personal versus is it meant to be personal? And I think often comments or disagreements or creative tension can be interpreted as personal when it's actually just simply meant as discussion points. So I think, it's like any form of communication, who receives it and who sends it. There's sometimes that little bit of a gray area in between that can happen. So I can certainly say that there are occasions when it feels personal. It may not be intended to be personal. And I certainly know from speaking with other colleagues who are in politics, bullying does occur in certain places. There is that, unfortunately still exists, and there are mechanisms to address it. But I think when you only have 32 out of 119 elected officials as women in Grey Bruce, that potential for difference in perspective is there. We have 27% of women only out of a population that's 51% women in Grey Bruce. So it just sort of lays that framework for potential perception.
Does, yeah. What about you, Marion? Have you ever had to deal with anything?
The odd thing on social media, but granted, social media is what it is, and I think we're better just to avoid it at times.
Mm-hmm.
But when we sit around the council table at the municipal level, I think we're all just people. We're not women, we're not men. Things are not different. However, I do think that maybe the women aren't afraid to be the helping person and ask the right questions, the who, the when, the why. Those are the questions that tend to come out, even though the public, you may know the answer, the public doesn't know the answer, and they're the ones that are asking. So most times when you ask those questions, you're asking so that the public can hear the right answer from the right people. So
that's right.
other than that, it's again the matronly helping instinct, I think, of women that portrays around the table that way.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that, and I'll ask this just as we're running out of time. It gets so you get into these discussions, and do you find that there's a difference in interaction between the genders? Just for instance, say with support staff, with each other, between the men and the women. You know, as you're doing your job as councillors. Is there a difference at all?
Are you asking that of me?
Oh, I'll ask anyone. You can start, Marion.
Well, I'll start then. No, I really don't find any difference. If I have a question, I will ask a staff, and because I'm most familiar with the staff, that some that are still when I worked there, I don't really have any trouble getting answers, or they direct me to the people that can give me the answers to help the people in the community that need the help. So I really don't have an issue with it. Again, as I say, people are people just around the table. They're not male or female. They're not gender different. They're gender neutral. So
right. And Carol, how about you? Do you find a difference?
Well, when I have been drilling down a bit more into finding out what makes it different, we talk about gender parity and perspectives. And I know they did some scientific studies around the stress hormone that's released in men and women, and when tough decisions have to be made. And sometimes, well, many times at council table, there are high stress situations, important decisions. What they found by measuring these, and I thought the scientific evidence was helpful in me understanding what was happening, they did decide, and they did come to understand that women become more risk alert, that women pivot a little to look for guaranteed wins that may be smaller. Men tend to go for the big rewards. Let's go for it. You know, we're going to decide. So the value of the differences is that there is a balance. We balance each other out when we have to make those tough decisions. And so I think that's an important perspective, that yes, definitely, we look at things slightly differently, but we're there to make the decisions just with a different lens and a different approach. I found that was really helpful for me to understand.
So
if I can just step in too, women become more the negotiators, I think. And we're used to doing that in our own households. So
we do that every day.
Yes.
That's right. And Mayor Ruth, did you find any differences or?
Well, you mentioned both on council and with staff, and I think we all have our own personalities and our own style and our own way of dealing with people, whether it's at the council table or it's with the staff. I loved working with Marion. She said, early on, she said, I just took notes. I don't think so, Marion. You're a huge source of information and wise counsel to a mayor. I think it's true that we tend to be, part of our makeup is to be maternal, and we are negotiators. And I used to tease, and I would say it at the council table, this is like the sandbox, getting everyone to get along. And I think dealing with staff, I was probably, and you would maybe know better, Mary, but what I felt was I was probably more relaxed with staff. I loved the staff, and I loved my relationship with them. I had a huge respect for them, and I had fun with them. One time, I can tell this story now, it's so much later, but when Craig Curtis was the city manager, I talked the guys up at the old arena to letting me drive the Zamboni. And I think just because I was a woman, they were so intrigued that that I would do it, I would ask. And so it was like our secret for a long time. And when Craig found out I'd done it, he was horrified. He said, I hope you were insured. But the relationship that I had with staff, I think was probably just because of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I think man or a woman. We're just who we are. We all have different styles, but at the council table.
Yes. One thing though, as a viewer from home, when we watch from Rogers at home, the one glaring difference that we see is the underrepresentation of women. We really need to work on that. Now, I did say that COVID does have something to do with it now, and we want to. Carol's working on the project, and we'll talk about that. And we're running out of time, as I said, but. I read the UN has been doing study upon study, and you can't even keep up on the studies now because they started studies when COVID began about women in business, women in parenting, women in politics, and went on. And then there came the second wave, and then so they did more studies. But what they found was they want women in politics, and they're trying to get women into politics, but women are now at home, their careers have been interrupted, their revenue has been interrupted, so they don't have the income to run political campaigns. So they're wondering if women will be able to continue, if they were having campaigns, will they be able to continue them? Will they be able to start them? And now with the municipal election coming, will they be able to even participate? So that is what gets me into this project that we've got just a little bit of time, but the project that Carol was talking about, if you can just give me a little bit of information about that, and then we'll have to wrap it up. But it's been such an interesting discussion, and I guess what we've learned is that women are powerful. Women are starting to, or they always have had a voice, and they're continuing with that voice, but we need more of them. I guess that's what it really is.
That's absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Sharen. And just, I know time is running out. We want to help women. How to decide to run? First event, March 16th on Zoom. We want people to sign up to learn more. And go online, electhernow.ca or electhernow@gmail.com if you've got an interest. There are 12 current or former elected officials, 7 volunteers. We're ready to help you.
Okay, so it's Elect Her, and you can find all that information there. And I'm so happy I had these 3 strong, wonderful women who are doing a lot. They're still doing a lot because former Mayor Ruth Lovell does volunteering in the community with social housing, and you 2 ladies are continuing to work on our behalf. So join us again here on Community Close-Up on Rogers TV, and continue to wash your hands, wear a mask, social distance, and we'll see you again here on Community Close-Up. And until then, I'm Sharen Skelly. See you again.
Thank you, Sharen.
Bye.
Thanks, Sharon. Bye-bye.
Call the Rogers TV Viewer Response Line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
With NHL Center Ice, you get a premium ticket to the games you want every night of the season. Catch every key out-of-market matchup each week